Page 85, continued. 28. Why, by the verities, ellipsis, and set me up in hope, question mark, but, hush, no more. Act 3, Scene 1, page 75. Banquo says these words in a soliloquy. He says that Macbeth has got what was predicted by the witches. He has been crowned king. He adopted the most despicable methods in order to have it. He has got the crown by murdering Duncan. Banquo thinks that when the truths about the prediction of the witches have been substantiated in the case of Macbeth, the predictions about him will also be proved true. Page 86. They are, as it were, divinations by the oracles of old. He is encouraged by the hope that they will be true prophecies regarding him. Banquo suppresses his thought and does not give expression to his thoughts further. He tries to restrain his cursed thoughts. Banquo here is tortured by ambition. He is also tempted, but he tries to overcome the temptation. He is presented as a contrast to Macbeth, who succumbs to temptation. In Holinshed, Banquo is an accomplice, but not so in Macbeth. Bradley thinks that Banquo, quote, yielded to evil, unquote, but Grierson remarks, quote, that Shakespeare has hardly made it clear how he intends us to conceive Banquo. But so far as he has, he seems to judge him honest. He rejects Macbeth's tentative advances, Act 2, Scene 1, lines 22-23, and though he appears at court, it must be remembered that in the case of a political crime, it has never been considered a citizen's duty to resist the fait accompli to the extent of imperiling his life and citizenship. Loyalty like that of Macduff is heroic. Banquo is not a hero. Macduff, not he, heads the resistance to Macbeth, but it is difficult to believe that Shakespeare intended to represent the ancestor of James yielding to evil, unquote. He, hush no more, means that Banquo is trying to restrain his evil thoughts. He feels tempted, struggles with it, and overcomes it. Banquo proves more heroic than Macbeth. Word notes. Verities, truths or correct forecast. Oracles, divinations by the oracles old, true prophecies regarding me. Set me up in hope, or encourage me to hope. 29. If it be so, ellipsis, the seed of Banquo king. Act 3, Scene 1, page 78. Macbeth is king, but in Banquo he sees an obstacle to his happiness and security. Banquo threw a challenge to the murderer of Duncan. Secondly, the prophecy of the witches regarding Banquo, that Banquo's offspring would be king after him, disturbs his mind. Moreover, he feels his genius rebuked by the superior genius of Banquo. So he plans to do away with Banquo. He regrets that he has defiled his mind, slain his conscience, destroyed his peace, bartered away his soul to the devil to make Banquo's issue king. Macbeth is here apparently considering the material side of the bargain, but his calculation betrays his keen awareness of the spiritual aspect of the crime. He is full of remorse that he has defiled his mind and destroyed his peace by the act of murder. He has killed, quote, gracious Duncan. He is fully aware of the enormity of the crime. He deplores the loss of his, quote, eternal jewel. His immortal soul by the act of this murder. Macbeth's conscience is active here. The pangs of conscience underlying his mundane calculation of profit and loss are unmistakable here. Word notes. Filed is defiled. Put rancors means to put bitterness. Vessel is pot, sacramental cup. Vessel of my peace, the metaphor is taken from the sacramental cup. Eternal jewel is the immortal soul. Soul is his most precious thing. 30. Rather than so, ellipsis, to the utterance. Act 3, Scene 1, page 78. Context as same as explanation number 29. Macbeth will not allow Banquo's issue to be king. He will not submit to the decree of fate. The witches predict that the seed of Banquo will be kings, and the witches are the mouthpieces of fate. Macbeth challenges fate to a duel. Let fate appear in the arena and fight him to death. Macbeth's mind is torn between two contrary feelings, despondency and ruthless desperation. These two moods come from the same course, frustrated ambition and tortured conscience. The spirit of bellicosity makes him a rebel against fate, a rebel, quote, refusing to recognize defeat and fighting his last and hopeless battle with growing despair but undiminished resolution, unquote, Dover Wilson. Page 87. Word notes. List, enclosure for fight. Champion, fight. Brackets, not elsewhere in Shakespeare. Bracket closed, but this is from Arden, bracket closed. To the utterance, to the uttermost, that is, to the finish. The language is that of duelling. List, champion, to the utterance are expressions from duelling. Duelling. 31. Knots had all spent, ellipsis, dwell in doubtful joy. Act 3, Scene 1, page 84. Lady Macbeth says this in a soliloquy just before meeting her husband. This gives a picture of Lady Macbeth as stricken with remorse and a sense of loneliness. Partners in crime have drifted apart. She is brooding on the deed. She feels the futility of what they have done. She says that their end is achieved, yet they do not rejoice in their success. Nothing is obtained, all is spent, since their desire has been fulfilled, but contentment remains as far off as ever. The dead enjoy peace which they sigh for. It is better to be the person whom we kill than to be in joy mixed with fear. Lady Macbeth envies the dead Duncan, who is free from all anxiety and cares of frightened life. Lady Macbeth's words recall those of her husband. To be thus is nothing, but to be safely thus, unquote. Lady Macbeth is a prey to profound melancholy. Both Macbeth and Lady Macbeth feel the vast difference between the poor prize and the huge prize. Both are stricken with sense of guilt and with remorse. But while he distracts remorse with action, her desolation sinks inward, quote, mining all within, unquote. Lady Macbeth's lines are rhymed. Sententious moralizings in Shakespeare are always in rhymes. Word notes. Not sad. That means we have obtained nothing of what we aimed at. All spent. We have lost everything. Doubtful joy. Joy mixed with fear. Doubt means fear. The old meaning. Number 32. But let the frame of things disjoint, ellipsis, in restful ecstasy. Act 3, Scene 2, page 85. These lines are said by Macbeth when he meets Lady Macbeth for the first time after their crime. Both are suffering from a sense of guilt. Both are stricken with remorse and repentance. Both feel that their end is achieved, but they do not rejoice in their success. They are in doubtful joy. Remorse has been eating into both Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, but while remorse stings him into action, it fills Lady Macbeth with a sense of desolation, quote, sinking inward, mining all within, unquote. Macbeth says to Lady Macbeth that it becomes difficult for them to live in this state of daily fear. They have scorched the snake, but not slain it completely. The murder of Duncan by Macbeth is just scorching the snake, not killing it finally. It does not mean the end of all dangers for them. He means to say that Banquo and Fleance live. They remain as objects of terror to them. So he wants heaven and earth to perish and the whole fabric of the universe break down. He cannot agree to live in such constant fear as to be unable to enjoy life in the least. They eat their daily meals in fear and sleep in all the horrors of terrible dreams. He regrets that they have not obtained the peace of satisfied ambition, but they have sent Duncan to the peace of the grave. They suffer on the rack of constant agony and fear. Macbeth unconsciously echoes the sentiments of Lady Macbeth in, quote, not sad all spent, unquote. They have been in perpetual agony of mind since their first crime. He wants to make an end of this constant anguish and fear by the destruction of the universe. He is desperate and a rebel against the whole, quote, estate of the world, unquote, quote, against both the worlds, unquote. Page 88. Word notes. Frame of things, that is universal frame. As Dryden would put it, frame suggests the idea of cosmos. Disjoint, that is fall asunder, metaphor from carpentry. Both the worlds suffer. Let heaven and earth perish together. Torture, or bed of torture. The image is one of lying on bed. The bed is bed of torture, the rack on which persons are usually tortured. The metaphor of the rack, torture of the mind, is rack. Ecstasy is madness. Ecstasy now means rapturous joy, but formerly it meant, quote, every species of alienation of mind, whether temporary or permanent, proceeding from joy, sorrow, wonder, or any other exciting cause, unquote. By Nares, Nares. 33. Duncan is in his grave, ellipsis, can touch him further. Act 3, Scene 2, page 85. Context is same as explanation number 32. Macbeth envies his own victim, Duncan, who is in his grave. His mind broods over his miseries. Duncan enjoys peace in death while his life is on the rack of constant agony. He who is to gain his peace has sent him to peace. He lacks nature's supreme remedy. He has suffered the worst that a king can suffer from disloyal subjects. Sword, the enmity of his subjects, the invasion by foreign troops, cannot touch him any longer. Duncan is therefore in a very enviable position. These lines show the depth of Macbeth's remorse. He sincerely envies his own victim. Life for him is a fitful fever. Death, by contrast, means a prospect of peace. These lines testify to Shakespeare's poetic power. Here is Shakespeare at his best. De avanent D'(Avenant). Change the line thus, quote, he, after life short fever, now sleeps, well. Close quotes. This is certainly not a change for the better. D'Avenant knew refinement, but he had not enough sense of poetry. Word notes. Life's fitful fever, the bustle and worries of life. Fitful is intermittent as applied to fever. Sleeps, one meaning is lies dead in his grave, the second meaning has a restful sleep. Malice domestic, the enmity of his subjects. Foreign levy, invasion by foreign troops. 34. Come, seeing night, which keeps me pale. Act 3, Scene 2, page 88. This is said by Macbeth in the course of his conversation with Lady Macbeth about his anxious thoughts on the score of Banquo and Fleance living. The thought that Banquo's son will be king after Macbeth fills his mind with scorpions within quotes. He hints at the removal of Banquo by murder. He asks Lady Macbeth not to know what he is contemplating about Banquo and his son. When the deed is done, she will praise it. When he decides to murder Banquo and his son, he makes an appeal to darkness that will cover the day and veil the soft light of the sun, which is the eye of day, which might be inclined to pity Banquo. Let night tear into pieces that bond which Banquo lives, and the causes. Once again, let night tear into pieces that bond by which Banquo lives, and causes Macbeth to be pale with fear. Banquo is said to live by a bond, as it were, which gives him the right to live. Macbeth calls upon night to cut off this bond. This passage is an eloquent testimony to the poetic power of Shakespeare. Macbeth's imaginative power is fully revealed here. Macbeth will do the deed in the darkness of night because he is afraid that the light of day may pity Banquo and prevent him from doing the black deed. His conscience is also present here. Page 89. Word notes. Seeling, S-E-E-L-I-N-G, is blinding, a term from hawking, Hawking. The eyes of the hawk were sealed up and then opened out again. To seal in falconry is to close the eyes in brackets of a hawk or other bird bracket closed by stitching up the eyelids, not the same word as seal, S-E-A-L. Scarf up, day. This is veil the soft light of the sun, which is the, quote, eye of day, unquote, which might be inclined to pity Banquo. This line reminds one of Lady Macbeth's speech before the murder, come, thick night, etc. Bond is lease of life given by nature to Banquo and his son. It is a legal term meaning the document that confers a right. Lady Macbeth's legal metaphor in Nature's Copy is continued. 35. Oh, these flaws and starts, by her grandam. Act 3, Scene 1, page 96. These lines occur in the famous banquet scene. This is said by Lady Macbeth to Macbeth when the latter is stupefied and stunned at the sight of the ghost of Banquo. Lady Macbeth does not see it. She believes it to be a fanciful creation of her husband's heated brain. Macbeth indulges in emotional outbursts and gusts of passion at the sight of this ghastly figure. Lady Macbeth tries to snub him by saying that these gusts of passion and startled expressions are only illusions compared to real fears. Compared to true fear, in brackets that is, for which has a positive basis or cause, brackets closed, these are false pretenders. These fears do not become a man. They may be fit subjects for a winter's tale told by a woman. These old wives' tales are cock and bull stories, although the storyteller would always attest their truth and declare that she had them from her grandmother herself. Here Lady Macbeth tries to rise to the occasion with her old determination and energy. Macbeth is in a very compromising situation and she tries to drive away the fears of Macbeth and thus save the situation. Word notes. Flaws, that is gusts of passion. It's a metaphor of a sudden squall. Starts, sudden fits. Impostors to true fear, that is compared to true fear they are false pretenders. To, compared to. A woman's story at a winter's fire. An idle story told by an old woman. The picture here is that of a woman who relates a cock and bull story sitting by a warm fireside, and this story she says she has heard from her grandmother. Authorized is confirmed, grandam is grandmother. 36. What man dare, ellipsis, the baby of a girl. Act 3, Scene 1, page 98. This is said by Macbeth in the banquet scene. Macbeth is completely unnerved by the blood-boltered ghost of Banquo that appeared before him. He rants and raves here. He says that he can do anything that is possible for human beings. If the ghost approaches him as the Russian bear or the thick-skinned rhinoceros or the Persian tiger, in any shape except that of Banquo's ghost, he will not tremble with fear. His nerves will be kept as firm as ever. If the ghost comes alive as Banquo and challenges him to a fight in the desert, he will meet him without any fear. If then he trembles with fear, he may be proclaimed as a baby girl. He means to say that the supernatural alone frightens him. Conscience alone makes a coward of him. Macbeth makes a boast of his courage and strength. It is just boast. The ghost of Banquo has completely laid him low. He is the, quote, brave Macbeth, unquote. Quote, Bellona's bridegroom lapped in proof, unquote. The ghost of Banquo is horribly real for Macbeth. It shows the anguish of Macbeth's conscience. Page 90. Word notes. Armed rhinoceros. Almost a mythical monster to the Elizabethan. Rhinoceros protected with a thick skin like an armor or armed with its horn. Hyrcan tiger, Hyrcan. Tiger belonging to Hyrcania, the fabled home of tigers. If trembling I inhabit then. This line is variously amended. Some would have the comma after inhabit, others after then, still others would read inhibit and place the comma after it. The meaning is however clear. Quote, if then I live in a state of trembling, comma, clothed with fear, unquote. Inhabit, in-habit is equal to dress, which means if I then inhabit trembling, that is put on trembling. Inhabit may mean remain or put on a habit, that is dress. Baby of a girl, that is a baby girl, the doll of a girl. 37. It will have blood, ellipsis, the secretest man of blood. Act 3, Scene 1, pages 9900. These lines are said by Macbeth in the banquet scene. He saw the ghost of Banquo and he was so unnerved and stunned by the sight that he made many compromising disclosures. He almost proclaimed his guilt. Lady Macbeth breaks up the dinner party and apologizes to the guests for the strange behavior of Macbeth. Macbeth has recovered from his strange fits of passion but is still delirious. He says that bloodshed demands further bloodshed in revenge. Murder always demands vengeance. Macbeth speaks of strange things but by which murder is detected. It was believed that a murdered body bled upon the touch or approach of the murderer. Stones have moved and trees have spoken to lead to the detection of murder. Divination also helps in exposing the murderer. When one can understand the secret connection between omens and the future events they indicate, one can, by observing the chatter of various kinds of birds, track down even a murderer who has taken every care to conceal his crime. Macbeth means to say that murder will out. Murder will have to be expiated by death. Most improbable things have happened in detecting murders. Divinations and the secret relations between things revealed by them have discovered the most secret cases of murder by watching the signs given by magpies and jackdaws and rooks. So he is stricken with superstitious fear that the murder he has committed will be revenged. Macbeth is tortured by the torments of conscience. He is afraid of detection. He dreads retribution. Dover Wilson calls this passage the most terrible in Macbeth. Word notes. It will have blood. It is said in the Old Testament, quote, and no expiation can be made for the blood that is shed by the blood of him that shed it, unquote. Numbers 35, lines 33. Cross-refer, mirror for magistrate, quote, blood will have blood, either first or last. Stones have him. Clark and Wright, W-R-I-T-G-H-T, take it as an allusion to some story of stones having moved of themselves and thus disclosed to view the bones of murdered men placed beneath them. The, quote, rocking stones, unquote, by which the Druids, Druids, tested blood guilt. An innocent person could easily move them, but no murderer could do so. One such stone was near Glamis Castle. Trees. In Virgil's Aeneid occurs the story of Polydorus, a Trojan prince, who was murdered. Over his grave grew a myrtle, myrtle, the boughs of which dropped blood and thus disclosed the murder. It may also refer to the oracle of the Zeus and Dione at Dodona in Epirus, where the will of God was declared through the rustling of the leaves of the sacred oak tree. Augurs, Augures, predictions by omens. Understood relations, connection between events as understood by divination. By is by watching the signs of. Maggot pies are magpies. Chows, Choughs, birds of crow family, jackdaws.